Computer.
Do you have it in gallery view?
Cool. Yes. So we're
Okay.
good.
All right, who's facilitating?
Me. All right, so number 1 is done. Number 2 is give your name and role. I'm Joey, the facilitator. Joke of the day.
I think we're all supposed to go around. I'm James Jokester.
All right.
I'm Ari. I'm the submitter.
Danielle.
I'm Haven. I'm the challenger.
I'm Daniela. I'm the host.
All right. And the joke of the day?
I got a few, so I'll just make them quick because they're all pretty funny. I couldn't pick one. I want to hang up a map of the world in my house. Then I'm going to put up pins into all the locations that I've traveled to. But first, I'm going to have to travel to the top 2 corners of the map so it doesn't fall down. When someone on the street tries to hand me a flyer, it's like they're saying, "Here, throw this away." I have a vest. If I got my arms cut off, it would be a jacket. I wrote a script and I gave it to a guy who reads scripts, and then he read it and he said he really likes it, but he needs me to rewrite it. I said, "Forget it. I'll just make a copy." I like rice. Rice is great when you're hungry and you want 2,000 of something. Dogs are forever in a push-up position. I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
Oh my god.
Those are
Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah, there you
Mitch
go.
Hedberg.
Yeah.
I like his one about the oscillating fan. He has a conversation with an oscillating fan who, do you keep my papers in order? No. Do you keep my hair neat? No. Do you want to eat lunch? No. Liar. Pretty bad.
All right, so next is the icebreaker. If you could spend an hour or 2 with anyone in the world who you admire, living or dead, talking about their life, who would you choose and why? I would probably choose Betty White. I think she's kind of a legend. She's been around for so long and she's probably seen so much, so I can only imagine what her stories would be like.
Cool. Joey, do you want to do you're going to call on everybody, or do you want
I
to?
can't, sorry.
Or I like what the Team 9 did, where the last person that talks calls on the next person.
Okay, we can do that. Haven?
If sorry, I'm losing my voice. Anyone in the world, I would talk to my grandpa on my mom's side because he died before I was kind of old enough to really get in depth with everything with him. So I miss him a lot. So I would just kind of like to know more about his life and everything he did. Daniela?
I just recently watched Bohemian Rhapsody, so I'm going to go with Freddie Mercury.
Good
one. James?
I would ask Nikola Tesla why he was in love with pigeons.
Was he in love with pigeons?
Yeah, that's the rumor has it, and why he's such a bad businessman.
Okay. Yeah, I'd pick Quentin Tarantino. I'm a big film guy, and he's weird. So I want to explore that a little bit more.
All right, number 5 is team members' preparedness. Each member identifies those readings and videos which they have not yet completed. I read and watched everything. Haven?
Yeah, I did. I did cram it a little bit today. It was kind of like a brief skimming because I've been, like I said, Mondays are awful for me. But I think I got the message from everything. So, James?
Watched every single video. I read every single word of every website and link. Daniela?
Yeah, same as you. I got through everything. Ari?
I did the same. Got through all the videos and read all the chapters and links.
All right. And did everyone submit their notes for 3.5? That's what the next question says.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. This says to review Dr. Chanley's feedback from the initial meeting. Have we already done that? I feel like that was done. I'm wondering if that's a mistake.
Copy and paste, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. You guys just want to review the last meeting she did?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
the
anyone
team
have
charter.
those pulled up?
It's a long one.
All right. Team charter. Why am I not finding it? Plan. Where is it?
I saw it the other day when it came through.
Oh, I'm in the wrong class. That's probably why it popped me up. Just a sec. Okay. Let's see.
The biggest feedback I got from her talking to her today prior to this call was she kind of wanted us to take charge a little bit more than what she was putting on the paper. Like she kind of complained that we were using paragraphs instead of bullets, or if we did what she thought she wanted instead of doing what we thought would work best for the team. So I think we can, kind of take that mentality moving forward through the rest of these meetings is kind of let's go with what works best for us. And it seems like she's open for us to do that.
I agree.
It'd be cool if we just try to relate everything to our project and sort of, everything that we're working on. So try to make everything relevant and that we're learning to what we can kind of use. And then, yeah. And then we should stress out less because I think it's all on us and we can ad lib and do kind of whatever. We can kind of feel a little more than just think on this one.
Sure.
One thing she said, I thought this meeting was great. As you got more relaxed about what you were doing, things just started flowing. Good job. I can sense that too. It seems a little bit more comfortable and easy to get through. All right, let's see. Are there any changes we need to make to the agenda for tonight? I can't think of anything other than adding on the other discussion at the end, but that's separate.
Yeah.
Okay. Below are the prompts for the Module 3 learning materials for each of the assigned readings or videos. What strategies can you use in your team to offset common reasons of the failure of virtual teams? Haven, do you want to talk about that one?
Wait, what are we reviewing?
Are you
now?
on 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I looking at the wrong thing?
Is it?
No, that's the right one.
Number 8, right?
That
Oh.
should be number 5.
Sorry, I was up to 5, but you're on 8, right?
Wait, I'm on the wrong thing.
Wait, it was chapter 1, why virtual teams fail. That
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
That's 5.
Well, no, it's also 8.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, 5 is just going through the things we're supposed to read. And then 8 breaks it down.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay. I did something different on mine.
What's the document called of the questions we're going over? I'm trying to find it on the...
So this is on the agenda, and then it's the first question from the series of notes. I can answer this one while you're looking. What strategies can you use in your teams to offset the common reasons for the failure of virtual teams? There were 4 headers that I noticed. Establishing clear goals, defining member roles clearly, cooperating with the team, and then being engaged from the very beginning and help others to be engaged as well. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
You're talking about the pitfalls? Or is that a different chapter? Why virtual teams fail? What strategies can you use in your team?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for me, it was about the pitfalls, the lack of clear goals, the roles. Is that what you said? Lack of cooperation, lack of engagement?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the big one for me.
Okay.
So I think the lack of engagement is a important one to touch on. I think obviously lack of clarity in goals and defining a vision is probably the most important thing to keep in mind while we're going through team stuff. But allowing team members to try to stay in their roles is good too. I noticed like Team 9 didn't really have roles, which was kind of weird. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
That's for later. But lack of cooperation, I don't think that's a problem. Maybe we should, if you feel like you didn't get a chance to speak or speak enough or add something, make sure you speak up, because we can kind of cruise through these meetings and not entirely speak our piece maybe, and then it feels like it's a little short maybe or whatever. But lack of engagement, that's another one. We can help each other do that by, I think a good idea is just kind of whoever hasn't spoke on a question, like you were saying earlier, Ari, just call on a person that hasn't spoke. Daniela?
Yeah, I wrote on lack of clear goals. I wrote that communication would help overcome that challenge. And as long as we were all on the same page about our participation and the overall end game, then we would be good to go throughout the whole process of the meeting.
Haven, do you have anything to add?
That's kind of the bullet points I had for that one. I mean, I guess it's just important to keep everyone comfortable because sometimes virtual environments can be weird. So, but that's kind of what I put.
Okay. The first article was, are successful teams always harmonious? What is the key point of this article? Wish these were in order. I actually wrote down a quote. Team harmony isn't so much a cause for success as a consequence of it. Too much harmony is not necessarily a good thing. When everything is in perfect harmony, things aren't discussed in depth. Ideas aren't presented or challenged. While harmony is nice, there needs to be a balance. Ari? Do you have anything to add?
I think he dropped out. His Wi-Fi dropped
Yeah,
out.
I think he's gone again.
All right. James?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think I just wrote it a little differently, but yeah, I think we really have to focus on keeping trust and keeping away from the desire to compete. Well, the desire to compete is natural, but to like really get into arguments will kind of cause a team to fail. And then, yeah, you're right. Keeping us like on our toes and allowing each other to kind of speak on our own opinions on things will allow us to, come up with new ideas rather than just shake our heads and agree on the same stuff every time. So keeping like a safe space, I guess, is good for the team harmony to be constructive. Haven?
So I wrote down a quote too. It said, in some study of 78 orchestras, it found that grumpy orchestras tend to outperform happy ones. And I just kind of took from that I guess instead of trying to build a relationship, because obviously they didn't really care about each other, they focused on the job. And I guess that helped them do the job really well. So it kind of, you don't have to be like in cahoots with each other to be good, but I mean, it helps.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I was just gonna call him Danielle. I didn't know if we were choosing people or not.
I was just gonna piggyback real quick. I think the best teams are the ones that are competing against each other, and I think on a macro scale, that's why capitalism's the best system in the world, because we compete. Not like Russia; they don't make anything, or China; they just copy everybody. They don't innovate like us.
So I wrote that the key point is that I put it in quotations, the mess inside will always exist. And I think I wrote that although tensions you may think are going to disrupt the harmony, a lot of the times they allow for it to be created. So kind of what you all said too.
You guys want to hold for Ari for a couple minutes, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I just texted him. You guys want to add to that? Trying to be divisive here. Who's the challenger?
Me, and I'm really bad at that.
They challenge me. You got to be like, no, socialism works. They get free healthcare.
Free healthcare for everyone.
Free everything for everyone.
I don't know. I really like the readings we had, so that makes it so hard for me.
Yeah. I think we got to, yeah, I don't know. The best teams that I've been on were teams that like there were people always fighting for the top spot, or people trying to fit into the hierarchy where they thought they would, and then it sort of just made everyone around them better.
Yeah, I coach a high school lacrosse girls team, and even though there is like that slight edge of competition, because we have a girl that's committed D1 and everyone wants to be like her, but everyone works so well together and they're all best friends, and I'm sure there's that slight like they want to beat her out, obviously, but they are really good together, and we're on like a 34 game winning streak because of how well they kind of mesh. So I guess you can kind of do best of both worlds in a sense.
Nice.
Ari, did you have anything to add for B regarding harmonious behavior in teams?
Which question was that one?
It's 8B on the agenda.
Is that the video? The
Yes.
article?
Or no, the article. Our successful team is harmonious.
Right. Here's what I had. I had a harmonious team may not always be the most effective team. It's more important to have teammates focused on a singular purpose while providing safe spaces for constructive conversations. Effective teams know precisely what they do matters. The harmony will result as a consequence of success. I think that's good advice. I haven't really worked in a high leverage type of team where this not like we're curing a disease or trying to figure out a math problem or something. I guess in that kind of situation, it would make more sense to have more of a challenger role. In the teams that I've worked on, we're all trying to, if it's a video or creating content for learning, everybody's just trying to do their best. But as far as that article goes, I thought that was some constructive advice.
Cool. Anyone else have anything else to add to that before we move on?
Oh, no, just that sharing our personal experiences is kind of a pretty good route for these questions, I feel like, because then we can
Definitely
a little deeper.
I agree. So conflict is a place of possibility. In what ways is conflict beneficial to a team? For this one, I wrote, conflict is a place of possibility. I think that was a quote from somewhere too else. Conflict can give us the opportunity to talk about what really matters. Conflict teaches us to listen. This allows us to learn. don't know what I wrote there. Don't hear to attack. And then this is really difficult. It's challenging to remove the emotion from what is being said, especially if the topic of discussion has an impact on us or if we're emotionally involved. Daniela, do you have anything to add?
So I wrote, we cannot let conflict become destructive. I wrote that if conflict is recognized if it's recognized as inevitable, we can use it to deepen our connections, to provoke useful conversations, and to open up opportunities for ourselves. Ari?
That's good. Yeah, I thought that the video was interesting. I don't think that she really addressed how conflict was beneficial to the team. You know, like she had a lot of good advice, like listen past attack and listen for the needs, develop a curiosity in difficult situations. I wrote build the practice of listening for information and responding to information as opposed to emotion, ability to hear and talk about what matters so constructive conflict goes down and constructive connection goes up. And I guess you can use that to be beneficial towards a team, but she never really related one-to-one. But that was all good advice, I thought. James.
I found that conflict basically builds ideas that weren't normally there, and without conflict, there wouldn't be any innovation. I think I might have said this before. Nothing new can come from, people not questioning things or looking deeper into things. And curiosity was a big part of that video. I think she talked about if you really need to become curious as to what other people think and become more kind of empathetic to their ideas rather than just kind of waiting for your chance to speak, kind of delve deeper into where they're coming from. And when conflict is an issue, a lot of times you guys are saying like emotions will kind of feed their way into it. But a way to get rid of that mentality is to really try to be curious about where they're coming from. And the important thing is to try to find out, what their goal is and the way that they think, rather than just, putting them in a box or doing what like a lot of our political system has became, or, a lot of the social media bipolar, crazy stuff that goes on where you have to pick a team, you have to lump into a category, you're either this or you're that, or, this, polarized society that we've kind of became. And it's not good for, I think, teams. It's not good for humanity in general. But I was thinking of how to win friends and influence people. And I grabbed this book, 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Both are kind of about influence. And basically the main thing in this book both books really is try to find out what the other person really wants. And you have to sort of meet somewhere in the middle and always try to appease them to where, where they want before you really try to get your point across, or, whatever. So you really try to find that middle ground. Daniela?
I went already. Haven?
So there was a quote that I liked. Basically, it can be negative, but conflict can also be good. It can deepen connections, provoke useful conversations, and it can provide momentum to talk about what matters. So, positive outlook on conflict.
All right. So up next, we have the video on Dare to Disagree. How can your team ensure that they are benefiting from dissenting views? I've seen this video in another class, an OGL class, so it was kind of funny to see it again. I wrote, encourage teams to speak freely and encourage team members to defend their opinions appropriately. The person that challenges the team creates some type of conflict and breaks the silence, thus enabling ourselves and the people around us to do great thinking. Daniela?
Yeah, I pretty much said what you said. I said that it's going to allow us to think more and to think more deeply of the scenario that we're in, which could make us more open-minded and more open to other ideas and views. So, Haven?
There was a good quote. It's how you create progress. You won't commit that kind of energy and time if you really don't care. So I guess disagreements are a good thing. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Who hasn't gone? Sorry, I'm losing my train of
James
thought.
or Ari?
Ari, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, we're all on the same page. We're all create conflict around theories. Not being able to prove you're wrong. It's only by not being able to prove you're wrong that you can give a teammate the confidence they need to know that they're right. Seek out people with different ways of thinking to find ways to engage with them. Don't be afraid of conflict. See it as thinking and get really good at it. I like what she said. When we dare to break the silence, we enable the people around us to do our very best thinking. Again, she was dealing with curing child cancer, so that was, it's important. But I guess it relates to any type of team. James?
I think in terms of any type of team, and even this one, there's limits and confines to what we can say or how we can argue, or what we can push out there with our views, whatever they are. But I think it's good to have an openness within the group to just allow us to feel like we can express those views, and we don't really, there's no judgment, or there's no real emotion into it, or way of getting anything besides logical about a lot of this stuff. And then it's the only thing that really drives change is disagreeing. And even if you feel like your idea is sound, or even if someone else feels their idea is sound, it's always good to question it, because it might solidify your view. It might add something to your view, or most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you're finding the center of something, and you really kind of have jumped to one side or the other of the spectrum. And once you really see the other side, then you can really truly understand what both sides have to offer. And that's the all-seeing eye.
All right.
All right. Next, we have the George Washington University Teamwork and Team Leadership website. In what different ways is conflict categorized? It looked like there was a chart, and there were 2 ways, rational conflict and emotional. Rational being cognitive. I selected 2 from the list. A goal is to find the best solution rather than winning. Results in cohesive, high-performing teams. And then the emotional or affective types of conflict are goal is to win at all cost rather than find the best solution, and results in fragmented, low-performing teams. Does anyone else have anything? Ari?
Yeah, I had the same. I found the same thing. The examples I picked were for rational, cognitive. I picked alternatives were viewed as valuable rather than threatening, and for as well as disagreements about ideas and approaches. And for emotional conflict, I said I picked the focus is on highlighting personal issues and assessing blame, and disagreements are personal and antagonistic. It seemed like a pretty basic chart about what's a cognitive or affective conflict. Haven?
I had the same thing, but I liked the under rational, it said mindset, we have a problem. And then under emotional, it said you have a problem. And I just think it relates to kind of society nowadays. So that's just kind of why I liked it. Daniela?
Yeah, I kind of wrote what Ari had written. I just wrote emotional conflict, in my opinion, seems a little more selfish as opposed to rational conflict, where you're more so thinking of the situation as a whole. But really, same thing. James? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I pulled a lot of mine from that first video. Causes of conflict were winning, sharing, controlling, working, and liking. And there was a lot in there. Basically, it's conflict and competition is one reason for conflict, and that's a category. And then another is situational influence, like stuff that like your opponents or things about your amount of money you have or sex differences or the way you cooperate in a classroom. Social values orientations was another one. There's, between individualists, competitors, altruists, cooperators, everyone has their own personal orientations. Sharing issues, people want more, people want less, or this person's making more money than me, or she got an A and I got a B. We had the same assignment. How come I got 40 out of 50? What's going on here? No, I'm kidding. But egocentrism versus sociocentrism, different norms that people see as more important than others. And then controlling was another one. The dominance hierarchy, people are trying to gain positions. It's another reason for conflict. I kind of took this question in a way where these are reasons why conflict happened, and they're just categories of that. Working together on tasks is the last one. Disagreements and task conflict, process conflict, unsure of decisions, or personal conflict. So that's just kind of like, the more impersonal version of why we get into conflicts.
All right.
There we go.
I think so.
Yep.
And then the last question pertains to another article, conflict, an important dimension in successful management teams. How can a leader steer his or her team toward constructive conflict? I wrote, effective teams learn to combine the diverse capabilities of their members. Leaders can encourage open communication. Open communication allows conflict to exist, but handle it appropriately. An appropriate culture must be the central focus of the leader's responsibilities. Haven?
So it goes really in depth in the article, but I pulled from it, as long as the leader is organized and has a picture of what they want to happen in the meeting, like in mind, and as long as they pay attention to where the discussion is going, healthy conflict can happen. But it did stress that the leader needs to pay attention because obviously disagreements can get out of hand if, it's a sore topic, I guess. Daniela?
I wrote that it was important to have, number one, the right environment for a meeting in order to have constructive conflict instead of having an environment that's going to cause it to become destructive. A leader should keep a sense of where discussions are headed, and they should be proactive instead of passive once they see the conflict happening. James?
So I pretty much had the same things, and pretty much every class that I've been in has said to disseminate full agenda early, aka having a vision or having clear goals and having the leaders set those early so we all have something to work for is probably like the most important aspect of leadership, I think, and staying true to that focus so we can all stay on the same page. No matter how we tangent or whatever, we still follow that path. Channeling discussions from A-type conflicts to C-type conflicts. And this is doing so by allowing both people to speak their piece, but then channel the discussion towards a solution with logic rather than emotion. So as a leader, you really need to be kind of the moderator and the objective observer of situations. And also always supporting the team. As the leader, you need to always give the team positive feedback, positive words, encouragement towards that goal, and using an us mentality when approaching things or trying to get people to work with you and do things. I think it's always funny to work with teams. I've been a lead in a lot of situations and not necessarily a boss. And a lot of times as a lead, you have different responsibilities than everyone, yet you sort of are at the same level as them in a way. So it's always interesting to use the word us when getting things done, like let's do this, let's do that. In reality, it's your team that's going to be doing that. Maybe you have other priorities, but it's funny just how bosses always use that language too. When it's like, let's get this done, we're going to do this together. And it's like, they're off on their computer or something. But yeah, just trying to get everyone to cooperate is important to support the team. So, yeah.
I can relate to the us statement. I used to work in a pharmacy, and the pharmacist would always say, I have this in stock, or I will get that for you, or I will do whatever, when really she had a full team of people doing everything for her. So it was always kind of frustrating. And so we would always mess with her about it. And eventually she changed, and it made everyone feel a little bit more like they belonged and like they weren't just slaves to the lady. So moving on.
Let me go. I don't think I went.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Like James, I gravitated towards the engaging in type C conflict and following the 3 attributes: the focused activity, creativity, integration, and open communication. I guess focused activity and creativity. Focus groups get to the core issues of the problem and stay close to the core. They stick closely to the task at hand and make decisions quickly and effectively. Creativity comes from getting the group to think of problems differently and finding solutions that approach the problem from a totally new perspective. I mean, we've touched on that a lot tonight. And open communication, like Danielle, you said, are central to getting sincere involvement from team members, which enhances decision quality and reinforces team consensus and acceptance, like the pharmacist. That's my notes.
Anything else from anyone regarding the notes?
I just want to say I hope the future projects provide some more conflict where we could actually have more conflict type discussions, or I think it makes it more fun.
I can agree to disagree.
I disagree.
This is all in agreement. Everything we say, we're yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah. I don't know. It's just fun for me.
Let's find some topics we can disagree about. Yeah.
No, we're all the same.
So, any other thoughts, comments, or discussion points before we move on? Any questions for Dr. Chanley? How do you feel this meeting went? I think it went by pretty quick. I was surprised, but yeah, it was pretty good, even given Dr. Chanley's time with us.
Yeah.
That was pretty helpful to just kind of gauge where she was on everything too.
Yeah.
Ari?
Yeah, it's good when there's no hurricanes getting in the way, or everybody's engaged, everybody's participating. I think we got a good group that does the work.
Yeah.
Haven?
I think it went good. I liked having Dr. Chanley in the beginning because, like I said prior, I always think the worst with stuff. Sorry, my dogs are running around the house. My puppy is only 10 weeks, so she's crazy. But I feel better now after talking to Dr. Chanley. I feel like she kind of reassured us that we were on the right path. So I think the meeting went good.
Cool.
James or Daniela, do you have anything?
I mean, I think it went well. I think they've been going well. I think having her come in, though, kind of relieves it a little bit, just because I feel like she's not really asking for much. So we should take that into consideration when we're doing our assignments and things.
Right.
I just think we're kind of overthinking a lot of stuff sometimes, and this is more kind of open open source than we thought. So I kind of, besides everyone looks either sad or tired tonight.
I know.
It's tough on the East Coast, dude. It's 10 o'clock here.
I know, I feel bad for you guys. It's still like lunchtime. But I was okay. So I came up with a few things. Maybe we could vote upon them. Everyone had their roles pertinent to the group. I feel like we all played our roles pretty good. What do you guys think?
I didn't have to submit anything, so I'm going to in the chart in the discussion next. So
Yeah, we need to force the challenger to challenge more, I think.
I don't know. I was thinking of something on one of the other questions, and I wasn't sure how to word it, so I didn't ask. But I guess, if you all have handled conflict before, like in any groups or classes of someone being super negative and just not, how do you handle that? Because I've never really had to deal with it too much, but I guess my challenging question would be, what would you do in that situation? Because I couldn't really think of like a counter argument for this stuff.
Fire them. No, I've had discussions with basically I had a discussion with my boss, and then I told him my side of the story, and then the other person contacted HR because they were real heated. We both kind of there was some language barriers, and he was trying to manage everybody, and I was just like, well, if you're not going to tell people what to do, then someone's going to step in and have to help you manage. And basically we cooled off, we both left, we went our separate ways, but then we talked to our managers, and then we kind of allowed them to decipher, and then they kind of went around and asked everyone really what happened and the situation. And so if someone's really heated, the best thing to do is just cool off, allow people to walk away, but eventually you want to have both people come together and agree to disagree or agree to work together, because in reality, you're going to end up having to work with that person probably.
I would agree with that. Diffusing the situation is always good. Another thing I try to do is try to put myself in their shoes to figure out what their thought process is. Show a little empathy. It goes a long way if you can try to figure out what they're thinking. Where were we? All right. So it looks like number 12 is next, which would be any changes needed for the next meeting. We're kind of in a weird spot this week with 3 meetings, but combining the second one tonight. So in regard to the meeting on Thursday, is there anything we need to add, or can anyone think of anything?
Mm-mm.
We're keeping our same roles, right?
Yeah, I think that was the
Okay, cool.
Thursday is still good for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says review the instructions for the next meeting and set up roles and a date and time. So we're good there. It looks like the next one will be discussing our feedback from other teams. So that should be interesting.
Potentially, if they have
If it's
their
available.
meeting available to us. Is that the only thing we're doing for the next meeting, or is there reading and writing?
That's all I see. Because if we do 3.2 and 3.3 tonight, that's the discussion and the written report. So I don't know if that means we would just postpone Thursday's meeting, or.
So besides that, there's nothing we have to do assignment-wise before Thursday? Just so I make sure I'm on the same page.
Yeah, I'm looking at the modules and it doesn't look like. Let's see what the spreadsheet says.
Feedback from another team.
Feedback report.
Oh,
Review written
okay.
report of
That's
team.
an assignment.
3.4 is just review written report of the other team.
So will she email that to us? How will we know we
Think so.
received it?
I'm assuming she'll send it to us.
Okay.
What would you like to play next?
What?
My only other thought would be that we have to compose a written report based on our discussion tonight. We could pull that together and then review that Thursday before we send it off, or we can send it off tonight.
I think we just get it done.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
I
right.
do too.
That way the team 9 has it, they can do it when they want to do it.
Okay. All right, that's the end. So we need to end this meeting and restart it so that we can have two separate files.
Can we just take 5 minutes? I need to go check on my kid who's been crying for an hour.
Yep.
I want to relieve my wife for a minute.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop the recording, right?
You have to close out of Zoom. You have a Mac or a PC?
PC.
Okay, I haven't worked with a PC. It seems you should just have to close out of Zoom and it should start downloading on your desktop.
I'm scared.
I would end the meeting first and then close out of Zoom.
End
It'll
the meeting?
start downloading. It should.
Yeah.
It should automatically start down. So don't stop the recording, just end the meeting.
Yeah. Well, you can do both.
I think you can do both.
Stop recording is the way to go.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you guys in 5
Okay.
minutes.